Hello everybody and welcome to JTV. Today we are joined by a bit of a Jewish celebrity, a man called Eli Beer. He is the founder and head of United Hatzalah in Israel, which is an independent, non-profit, fully volunteer emergency medical services organization. I wanted to make sure that I get all that information correct. And it provides fast and free emergency medical first response throughout Israel. It's really a remarkable organization. Eli, I'm sure many of our viewers watching know about you, know a bit about you and know about Hatzalah, United Hatzalah. But for those who don't, can you tell us a bit about your journey towards setting up this organization? What prompted you to do it and how did you do it?
Well, it happened by mistake. I was a young boy living in Jerusalem, and I was a volunteer in the back of an ambulance. I was really motivated to help people and save people. But I realized being in the back of an ambulance, stuck in traffic, I used to see motorbikes passing by. We were on the way to save someone with a heart attack, and a motorbike delivering pizza would pass us and just go through the traffic and get there much faster than we were. So I realized that people really die waiting for help, not because we don't want to help them, we just couldn't get there in time. And the distance and the traffic, the congestions were very, very bad. So we had an incident about this was a 7-year-old boy who was having lunch and choked, and the mother called us for help. And we were in the other side of town in Jerusalem. It took us 21 minutes to arrive. By the time we got there, we saw the baby, this little boy, not breathing. And he was completely blue, and we started doing CPR, trying to save him. And a doctor who passed by ran into the house, and he started working with us for almost 40 minutes. And we tried everything possible. Then after 40 minutes, the doctor says there was nothing we could do, nothing else we could do. Just bring a sheet to cover him. And that moment was the worst moment of my life, seeing a little boy just die from choking. And a doctor lived a block away, he didn't know about it. And that was the change in my life. I realized that ambulances are important to transport people, but almost impossible to save people. And that's where the idea came, to get volunteers, motorbikes, and change the way emergencies are responded to.
Wow. And when was this, and how did you sort of go about the next steps?
Well, so I got my friends, 15 friends of mine. I said, listen, I have this idea. Every time they have an ambulance call for any emergency, we will respond faster because we are in the community. We're spread around the neighborhood where we were in Beit Vegan in Jerusalem. So my friends loved the idea. They actually loved it. And they said, let's do it. The problem is the ambulances did not want to share emergency calls with us. They didn't think it was a good idea because, from nowhere in the world, ambulances share emergencies with civilians. Go respond before us. But that made sense to me. So I decided to do something that was more or less learning from the Israeli chutzpah. I bought police scanners, like walkie-talkies, that you can listen into the ambulances and hear what their emergency calls are responding to. And that's how we started, with 15 volunteers and a couple of these police scanners, they call CBs in America. And we responded to calls. The first call that I went to was a man who was hit by a car, and I heard they were sending an ambulance from very far, and I was close. So I just responded, and the man was on the floor, completely unconscious. But he was bleeding from a bunch of, I knew I have to stop his bleeding immediately. So I didn't have any bandages on me. So I took my kippah on my head. I took my kippah and I stopped his bleeding using my kippah because I had no bandages. And that's how I saved his life. He woke up 2 days later in the hospital. I went to visit him, and I saw when he gave me a hug that he had a number tattooed on his arm. And when I saw that, it changed my life. I realized how easy it is to save someone if you get there on time. You could be the best doctor in the world, the best ambulance in the world. But if the patient is waiting there bleeding to death, he's never going to survive. And that's the idea of United Hatzalah. Thousands and thousands of volunteers who joined us afterwards, and motorbikes that we created into ambulances, we call them ambucycles, change the way people get saved in Israel.
Wow, that it really is remarkable. And so now you're working with the official health departments and services, I take it, throughout Israel. There's no kind of resistance anymore.
Yeah, I mean, not only that we're working with everyone, there are over 100 ambulance companies in Israel. They use our services. When they get an emergency, they notify us that an emergency is happening nearby. They send in someone. They have big ambulance organizations in Israel, the biggest one, of course, and all the smaller ones. They come and they want to save people, so they know to use United Hatzalah, which has a network. It's very much like Uber, if you think about it. It's a volunteer service that are spread everywhere. So you could find within 3 seconds, our technology knows to find the closest 5 volunteers.
Wow. And these volunteers, they some of them are not doing this full time. They're just sort of, if they get a notification, they'll leave whatever they're doing and go and help.
This is a very unique way of volunteering. You know, every when you do volunteer work, so you go once a week or once a month, and you put your time into it and you help. Here, it's 24/7. You go on vacation, you take your gear, you take your equipment, you take your defibrillator. Your family knows that if they are now in the pool having fun, but someone nearby is drowning, you will leave the pool and go save that drowning person. If you know someone's having a heart attack or a car accident, God forbid, a bomb attack, within seconds, you would leave wherever you are and go save lives. So you're on call 24/7, even on Shabbat, even on Yom Kippur. You are ready to go.
And have other countries come to United Hatzalah to want to learn from this model that you've created?
Well, they listen to your broadcast and they love the idea and they contact us. We have teams of people who actually share the idea. It's Tikkun Olam. We want to share United Hatzalah's vision of 90-second response to everyone who needs it. So we get more and more countries who are learning for us, who are copying the model. Even in Israel, ambulance services copied some of our model, and they took motorcycles, they took the other ideas that we have. We're sharing it with now countries, even in India. And hopefully very soon here in England somewhere, it's going to start this idea. They have Hatzalah here in England, by the way. In London, they have Hatzalah that exists in the Jewish communities and mostly in the, I think it's North London. I'm not sure the areas like Gold Screen and Hendon and all these other places of great Hatzalah in Manchester. But it has to go broader than just the Jewish community. It has to go everywhere. People die every day waiting for help. And this should be a solution.
And I want to talk about some current events and issues as well. But I also would like to ask, just before we get there, just a couple of personal questions and questions about the organization. So what are your plans? I mean, you're clearly a man who's an innovator. Do you have any interesting plans for Hatzalah, or just maybe outside of that you're working on in the near future?
Yeah, so my main goal is to make sure we have enough people trained and equipped in Israel. That's why I travel a lot. I travel to fundraise, I travel to speak about this and motivate people. So I want to make sure Israel has the best medical response in the world, which we are now, but I want to make it even better. We have a less than 3-minute response time nationwide. Nowhere in the world is so fast, but we want to make it even faster. So in some cities, we actually got the 90-second response, and that's our goal. But I also want to make sure that people around the world know that they can depend on Israel and United Hatzalah to be boots on the ground on every emergency. So if they have a disaster somewhere, or like unfortunately what's happening now in Ukraine, our volunteers, we actually helped create United Hatzalah of Ukraine over 10 years ago. We had over 100 volunteers there. Most of them fled. And a lot of Jews are still there, and a lot of non-Jews are running out of the country and they need help. We have teams of volunteers who left their families, left their jobs, and are in the borders now in Moldova and other places, accepting these refugees, helping them. We have field hospitals. We have evacuation centers where people could actually relax for a day or two, and then we help them come to Israel. We have a lot of a lot of Jewish people want to come to Israel, but also non-Jews who need help. So we're helping anyone possible. And it's an incredible feeling to know that we have arms in many places around the world of an army of volunteers. This is an army of good people who just want to help. And now we're in the midst of it. We're really in the midst. I was on the phone just before with one of my guys, Dovi Mazel, who's there. And he's telling me, Ellie, we're 4 buses on the way to the airport in Kishinev to take them to Israel. There was no better satisfaction knowing. My father told me the stories when he was a young boy living in America. He was in the Lower East Side. He was 10 years old, 1938, when Jews were trying to flee Europe, run away from the Nazis. And my father was a little boy, only 10 years old, but he went around raising money to save Jewish people running out of Europe. My father told me that he saved lots of Jews by raising money and helping and saving them. And that's what I'm doing now, and our volunteers are doing now. They're putting their lives in danger, going there and rescuing people.
Wow, well, that was exactly what I was going to ask about next. And if people want to get involved or support this particular focus on helping the people of Ukraine, what can they do?
Well, very simple. You could support financially. You could sit around and watch TV and see all the bad things going on in Ukraine and feel bad for them. But you could also go on our website. We have a website, very informative, israelrescue.org, www.israelrescue.org, and just learn more about what we're doing and just click and support even £1, 10 pounds, 1,000 pounds, no limit to how much you could help. And you could actually rescue people. It costs us an average around $500 to get one person out of there to India. With food, with evacuation, with the buses, with the security, and all the things that we are helping them with. That's what it costs, around $500 just for 420 pounds or something. So that's something that people could do and support 1 evacuation, 2, 5, and get more people out of there and to safe haven. I could tell you that just yesterday, I was so blown away from an act of heroism by one of our volunteers, Aaron Arush, who went into Ukraine to rescue a little baby that was born there. A little 1-day-old baby girl who was born in Ukraine and had to be rescued out of there, a Jewish baby, and the baby is now in Israel. It took 36 hours to get her out with ambulances. It was a very expensive journey because you couldn't get an ambulance. All over Ukraine, no ambulance wanted to go from Kiev, and then we had another ambulance from Odessa to get to the border. It's like crossing the country under fire and the danger, and they did it. And this little baby girl is now in Israel. So that's one person, one little Jewish girl that we saved, but many, many more to do.
Truly incredible work, and I hope our viewers will consider helping your organization. Also, it must have been about maybe a year and a half ago. I think I remember you caught COVID very seriously. It looked like, from what I was seeing and how what you were posting, that you nearly died from it. What happened to you?
Well, I was just coming. I was in London just before. It was March 2020, which is coming up now, right? Are we in March already? Yes, we're in March. So it's about this time, 2 years, not even a year and a half, it's 2 years. And they didn't have vaccination, they didn't have anything then. And no one knew about COVID. This was many, 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 many decades ago when no one knew what COVID is. And I was on the plane coming to Miami, a few days into Miami. I don't know where I got sick. I don't know where it happened, but I didn't feel well. And I went to the hospital. I was actually the first one admitted into the ICU in the University of Miami. The doctors, after a couple of days, said that if I don't go on a ventilator, if they don't put me in a coma, they don't induce me into coma, I will have a heart attack. I will probably not survive it. My oxygen level was so low. And they put me on a ventilator, on a respirator for a month, trying to save me. And I was battling for my life. I usually battle for other people's lives, but I never battle for my own life. And this was the first time, and it was very, very difficult. And I was sure I'm not going to make it. Before I went on a ventilator, One of the doctors I spoke to said I have a 5% chance of survival. And thank God, look at this, 2 years. I didn't realize how time flies.
I know. And then I remember you sort of you flew back from America to Israel and welcomed by the Hatzalah team. Is that correct? I remember seeing footage of this.
Yeah, I didn't have a way of getting back to Israel, and I was so depressed. I lost 40 pounds, which is, I don't know, 17 kilos in 1 month. Unfortunately, I gained everything back. And it was a very bad moment for me. And I woke up and I heard of all the incredible things that we're doing in Israel. We respond to almost 2,000 emergencies a day, medical emergencies. But the volunteers of the United Hatzalah took upon themselves to do a lot more. And I'll tell you one story, very short story that will blow you, like I was blown away when I heard it. This woman called 5 minutes before Passover, the United Hatzalah, and she said, please save my life. They said, what happened to you? He says, I need candles to light for Passover. I don't have for Pesach. I need candles. And the volunteer that answered the phone said, sure, we'll send you someone to get you candles. This was 5 minutes before Pesach. So within 3 or 4 seconds, the first volunteer responded that he's going to buy candles and bring it to her. This was an Arab volunteer by the name of Ibrahim Ayuti. We have 6,500 volunteers. 550 of them are Arab, which is unbelievable. Working together with Jewish people, religious and secular, men and women. And this is a moment of incredible moments in life that you hear these stories. Ibrahim, his name is Ibrahim Ayuti, drove his ambucycle to a little store. He bought a grocery store. He bought candles and he bought a bouquet of flowers. And he put it in the back of the ambucycle next to the defibrillator, next to the medical supplies. And he drove to Bat Yam. He was from Jaffa. And he drove to Bat Yam a couple of minutes away. He knocks on the door on the top floor of the building. This old lady opens the door. She's a tiny little lady, 90 years old. And she sees him. She starts crying. She said, you saved my life. You saved my life. And he sees she's a Holocaust survivor. She had the stamp from Auschwitz. And he starts crying, Ibrahim. He's not Jewish. He's an Arab guy. He's crying. And she says, I need to light candles fast before it's too late. And she runs in and she starts lighting 15 candles. He sees that. He doesn't understand why she's lighting so many candles. And he sees she's all alone. So he says, could I spend time with you? He spent 2.5 hours with her, singing the Haggadah, eating with her matzah. He never ate matzah before and sang Haggadah. And after he was about to leave, before he was about to leave, he asked her, why did you say I saved your life? And why do you light so many candles? And she said to him, Ibrahim, I grew up in Poland. My whole family were taken away by the Nazis. Every week before my whole family were murdered by Hitler, we used to light candles together, all of us. And I never missed a week with my mother lighting the candles. And then when I was sent to concentration camp, every week I lit something, a piece of paper, a piece of wood. I never missed a week in the concentration camp, in the working camp. I used to work 17 hours a day, but always make sure that before Friday night, I light a candle, something. And I never had a real candle, but I lit something. And then when I was liberated and I went to Eretz Israel, to Palestine, I said, I'm going to light candles for every one of my families who were murdered by the Nazis. So I light every week 15 candles, every single week, no matter what it is, Shabbat or holiday. And this is the first time, because of the lockdown of elderly people in Israel, I couldn't go shopping. And people left me matzah and they left me food outside the door, but no one thought of leaving me candles. And I realized today that if I have to fill in the candles that I'm missing with paper or wood, this is the last day of my life. I'm not going to survive this. And she said, Ibrahim, you came with the candles. I realized I'm going to survive, because otherwise I wouldn't have made it. And this lady survived, of course, and she lit the candles. When I heard that story, I said to my family and I said to everyone, I'm coming back to Israel. I didn't have the strength to come. So I was lucky enough to know Sheldon Adelson, and his wife, Miriam, who was incredible, Dr. Miriam Adelson. And she offered to fly me back to Israel on a plane because they didn't have any flights from Miami. and I needed doctors and I needed a paramedic with me. So I landed in Israel, and it was the most incredible surprise to have not only my family to hug, which I didn't think I'll ever hug them again, but I had 1,000 volunteers of United Hatzalah with motorbikes and ambulances and bicycles, and they were there waiting for me. And the only thing I was looking for, the only one I was looking for out of all the volunteers was for this Ibrahim, this Arab Muslim volunteer. And I said, where is this guy Ibrahim? And they didn't know why I'm calling him. And they brought him over. And he didn't know why I wanted to speak to him. And when he came over, I said to him, Ibrahim, you should just know that I'm alive because of you. I heard the story, what you did to this Holocaust survivor woman. And I know why I built this organization. And now I realize how important the name United Hatzalah. We unite together to help other people. And this is how we're going to win wars. And this is how we're going to win pandemics. And this is how we're going to win any tragedy. If we all hold hands together and help others. And this is a good example. United Hatzalah is a good example for the world. How we could overcome a lot of, politics and disagreements and arguments for many generations if we believe that lives are more important than anything.
Yeah, that is a really incredible story. And we look forward to sharing that with our audience. Just very quickly, in a sentence or two, what would your advice be to anyone looking to do something meaningful with their life, whether it's to make their main focus or just something just small on the side? What would your one piece of advice be?
So my main piece of advice is don't start big, don't think big, start small. A lot of people want to conquer the world, and a lot of people say, I'm going to wake up in the morning tomorrow and I'm going to make peace in the world. It's like saying, I'm going to lose 50 pounds. Start with 5 pounds. Start with peace in your community. Start with giving food in your community. Don't start changing the world. Start changing yourself and the people surrounding you. I started with 15 volunteers. I never imagined it's going to be what it is today. It's a worldwide organization that's making a difference, but I never really thought about it. I got my friends committed. I got people who are still with me from the day I started, because we started and we believed in a mission. It wasn't about changing the world and winning Nobel Prizes. It was about just saving one life. And when you have that mission in front of you, saving one life, you could do it and then go to the second and third and fourth life. And I think that's what people that are entrepreneurs or social entrepreneurs have to remember. Go small and then grow with it.
Absolutely. Well, Eli, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being so inspiring. Thank you for the incredible work you do. And please consider supporting their particular work around Ukraine right now. Eli, thanks again, and good luck with everything you do in the future.
It's great talking to you. And our website again is israelrescue.org.
Thank you so much.